So my name is Louie Herron, 25 years in the car business, 18 of the 25 years general manager, operator of a car dealership, 13 of those years general dealer principal of automobile dealerships, and had the pleasure of buying 3 stores and also had an independent lot as well. However, a lot of people see the glory, but they didn't know the story of how to get to that point. So I want to just tell you a little bit about who I am currently operating a store, a Toyota dealership now. And when it first started out, and I never imagined I'd be in the car industry. That was not something that I had elected to do, not something I thought God had a plan for me. Growing up in South Florida, I was born in Miami, but I was actually raised in Hollywood, Florida, Broward County. So my mother remarried when I was young. I was 5 years old. My biological father left and reunited with him when I was 25, but there's a huge gap. But she remarried a gentleman that adopted me and gave me his last name, and that's who raised me. And that's kind of where the story begins of trying to gain his approval through my life. So many times trying to really win him over, trying to gain some kind of approval, which ignited a fire inside of me of trying to overachieve. Which quite frankly helped me within the industry. At the time I didn't realize it, but unfortunately my mother, she was a bad alcoholic, and she also had a cocaine problem, and they lived a wild life. I mean, dog tracks and gambling, and he was abusive. And so my whole youth I'm trying to gain some kind of approval to get my dad to come to football games, and it just was tumultuous in that whole household. And as I got older, he was physical with her. He was physical with me, emotionally, and I would say I was kind of battered and beat up as a young person, really not trying to figure out what my identity was. So I kind of latched on to football. My high school football coach, who has since passed, Coach Cannon, was my mentor. He was my guy, and he was like a father to me outside of the Lord. I was with a heavenly father, but obviously physically, my coach was one of my biggest fans. He was my biggest cheerleader. He was my guy that encouraged me and motivated me that I could be all I could be. And so growing up, football became my passion, and I had one singular goal, and that was to get out of that house. And I thought football was going to be my ticket. All I could see was the NFL. That's all I could see. And I remember we had some challenges along the way as a young person. I know one of them, I wasn't the most studious kid in the world and didn't make the best of grades. And I remember Coach Charlie Strong, who was at the University of Florida at the time. That's where I wanted to play football. And I went to a smaller school in South Florida, but nonetheless, there was a lot of talent, so it wasn't unlikely that it could happen. But unfortunately, it came time to take the SATs, and you had to score 700 on the SAT score. And I think you got 400 or 500 to put your name on it. I mean, it wasn't that difficult, and somehow I managed to get a 680. And I remember when the mail came in, I asked my mom, let me see that scores. And I got in my car and I drove off because I was kind of embarrassed. I kind of knew inside that I wasn't going to be what I needed to be for whatever reason, and it wasn't. So I got with my high school football coach. I'm like, look, I got to play somewhere. Obviously, I didn't make the grades, and so he helped me find Liberty University in Lynchburg, Virginia, and that's kind of where the quest started of kind of achieving and overcoming. I left when I was 18 years old. I'm 45 years old, and I haven't been home since to reside. So I mean, I left at 18 and kind of took on this thing of like being my own person and figuring out how I want to make this thing work. Mind you, not having any clue I would end up in the car industry. Again, I'm trying to play football in the NFL, so I get to Liberty University, and I'm in there my first year, and I'm playing tight end, and one of the coaches during spring wanted to move me to defense, and I'm like, I don't want to do that. I think I'm better than the guy that's in front of me. And they want to move me to defense, and I call my high school coach. I'm like, look, I want to play tight end, find me another school. So he finds me another school in Georgia. So now we go to West Georgia College, which was a great school. And mind you, I will tell you, the guy that I thought I was better than went on to play 16 seasons in the NFL for the Denver Broncos. So he was clearly better than I was. And I was a little delusional, but I had a great attitude, and I was motivated and thought I could be all I could be. So I go to West Georgia. I still had 4 more years left of school. And so I had no income, so I was working at Lowe's distribution plant in Villa Rica, Georgia, loading trucks on a graveyard shift, 6P to 6A, making a living. And I played my 4 years, and eventually they still moved me to defense. And long story short, the football career wasn't good enough to make it in the NFL, bottom line. But I never lost heart, and I kept that drive alive. But I migrated into how I'm getting into the car business, not knowing how. So my buddy wants me to wait tables at Chili's. And so I'm like, okay, that's fine. And at this time, I did not want to speak in front of people. I was nervous to take this job as a waiter, so I figured I don't want to give up my main income at the distribution plant, so I'll go there part-time. And I remember going to Chili's, and I remember the embarrassment of like going through and talking to people out loud and publicly speaking. And so I'd memorize the Chili's menu, so I would know everything that anyone would ask me, right? That's how anal I was about feeling embarrassed and the fear. So through the Chili's experience, and part of the whole story that's so interesting is how God's always got a plan that you never knew. Mind you, I'm getting into the car business. I'm 20. I have no idea I'm going there yet. Have no idea I'm going to be 25 years in the car business. Have no idea I'm going to own 3 dealerships. I have none of this at this point. I'm a 20-year-old kid, and I meet this guy that comes in, and I wait on him, and he's from Miami, Florida. And so every time he comes in, he starts asking for me. And so he decided with the kid from Miami. So I would wait on him. And so about the 3rd or 4th time, he finally says, hey man, you need to get in the car business. And I'm thinking to myself, man, I would never sell cars. Like not my gig, right? And he's like, he keeps wearing on me. Long story short, and there's much more to the story, but long story short, I end up kind of having the Gideon moment where I kind of pray, God, show me a sign. Give me some kind of sign. Let me know it's what you want me to do. And true story, I set my alarm every morning, and it's always on buzzer. And when the alarm goes off, after I pray that evening, the alarm goes off, and it's a car commercial. For whatever reason, it wasn't set on buzzer. It went off to radio, like those options did back in the day. You can have buzzer or radio, and it's a car commercial. I get up, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is like, so I call my guy up, and I'm like, hey man, I said, I think I want to come down and check it out. He says, no problem. So I go down to the dealership. He says, wear shirt and tie. So I go down to the dealership. It's a small store, selling about 100 cars a month. And so I go down to this dealership, and it's so small that I actually interview with the general manager. So I meet with the general manager, I'm talking, and he's sitting in front of me. And the whole time we're talking, he's listening. He's asking me why I would think I'd be good at selling cars. I have no clue how I'd be good at selling cars. None, zero. But I'm selling the best I can, right? And so anyways, at the very end, he says, look, we don't normally hire onesie, twosie kind of guys. We like to get a group in where you can get trained and so forth. So we'll keep your application on file, and if something changes, we'll give you a call. And I'm thinking to myself, well, that's crazy. God gave me a sign. This guy's wearing me out at Chili's. I'm thinking I got the job, right? So as we stand up behind him, there was a Jacksonville State football helmet. I didn't see it because he was in front of it. And when he stood up, I recognized and acknowledged Jacksonville State. And he's like, you know Jacksonville State? I said, yeah. I said, I played at Liberty University. We went down to Alabama and played you guys or whatever. So we start talking football. Within 3 minutes, he says, you know what, kid? He said, come tomorrow with a shirt and tie, and I want to put you on. Had I walked out of there that day, you want to talk about divine intervention, I would have never come back to the car business. I'd have been at Chili's, loading trucks, trying to be a school teacher, which I ended up dropping out of college, so I wouldn't even have been a school teacher. Lord knows what I would have done. So I come back to the dealership, and so here's the quest. So now I'm starting this quest on, again, not knowing I'm gonna be in the industry 25 years, I'm gonna operate a store 18 years, or even buy a dealership. But I'm in the business, and I'm starting to look at people, and I'm seeing the money they're making. I'm going, man. And the one thing that kept sticking out to me is these guys are making great money, but they're lazy. And I see the level of customer service and how they treat people, and we're talking early 90s, so it's like, I'm looking at this and I'm like, man, I could really make something of this. So I start to begin this quest, this obsessive quest. Mind you, let's back the clock up a little bit, referring to my dad really telling me that I wouldn't amount to anything growing up, and I should never go to college, it's a waste of time, and you're never gonna make it playing college football. And he was a roofer, so he wanted me to come back and work for the roofing business. And of course, inside of me, I had that fire burning, like, I'm gonna show you. I'm going to show you. Didn't know how, but this was an opportunity that I'm going to show my dad. So in some crazy reason, I thought to myself, you know what? I said, I think I can be a manager. I can be a general manager. I think I can buy one of these dealerships. Now, mind you, at this time, not having a clue what a car dealership costs, millions of dollars, and I'm a 20-year-old kid, I started this obsession. So what I started doing was practice, drill, rehearse, practice, drill, rehearse. Every single piece of content that I could get my hands on, I started studying. So my car became Automobile University, period. To work and from work, to work and from work. It wasn't radio, it was constantly receiving content of closers, psychologists, communicators, speakers, teachers, preachers. It didn't matter, anything that I could get my hands on. And from that day forward, of me making that decision, it was on. I mean, at that day, so as a 20-year-old, I was a manager at 22. I became the general manager of that very same store at 28 years old. And it was a Honda store in Atlanta, and ran that store, did very well. Then adversity would strike again. I'd get fired They'd bring somebody in, not because of performance, but they felt like that I was not old enough at 20 years old to get the store to the levels that it needed to go to. They offered me a general sales manager job and another general manager job in a different state. Of course, I wasn't gonna go to Memphis, is where they were offering me, living in Atlanta. I had a young family at the time, and so I decided to say, you know what, I'm gonna go towards the route of another manufacturer. So I got involved with Toyota and went to a Toyota store and general managed that store, doing very well. Took the numbers from 0 to 60, and things were doing well. And then all of a sudden, guy tells me he wants to go a different direction. He wants to replace me. And I'm thinking, man, this is crazy. Like, I'm trying to wrap my head around, I've got this opportunity and I'm a young guy, and like all young people in the car business want to continue to do well in the business. You question what's going on. And again, God always having a plan. Every single time something shut, with the next opportunity was bigger. And here we go again. So I get terminated, okay, from this employment of being a general manager, and my district rep for Toyota brand comes to me and says, I got a store for you that's in Atlanta, that's not been doing well, but if you could take the store to the next level, it could be huge for you. Mind you, if you go there and something happens, you know, it's probably not gonna be good with the brand of Toyota because you've already had one store. And I'm like, I'm with you. I said, tell me about the store. He said, well, the store's got $1.2 million, $1.3 million in expenses every month. You know, it's got 250 employees. It's a huge operation. It's the biggest store you probably have ever run at this point. And the two prior general managers have managed to lose $1.5 million per year. So you're walking into a deal that's going to be a challenge. I said, that's the one I want. That's the one I want. This is the one, in my mind, this is the one I thought was going to take me to the next level. So fortunately, I get there in that ending of November. I think it was 2004. We kick off in January 2005. I culminated my team together, recruited some people, and next thing you know, we had one of the largest turnarounds in SCT history in that dealership. We got tons of acknowledgement. And from that point forward, my name started to get recognized. I was the young guy that was kind of recognized at 32 years old, and I started receiving phone calls because people knew that I wanted a partnership, because I made it very known that I wanted to be a dealer. I wanted to be a dealer, at least a partner at first, and I wanted to own my own store. And then I went to Augusta and partnered with a great family, the Taylor family, and partnered with them in 2006. And that store was doing 100 cars a month. We took that store to 260, 280, 300 cars pretty consistently over the next 3.5 years. Did a great job, sold it. I had gone back and I had mortgaged my house in this partnership deal. I had taken all of my 401k, I put everything I had into this deal, knowing in my mind this was going to be the deal to acquire 30% of the deal. We sold the deal. After it had ramped up, someone came and made an offer, a substantial offer, and I was able to take you know, more money than I've ever had, millions of dollars, $3 million to be exact, to be able to buy my own dealership. And went on to buy another dealership in Georgia, and went on to buy a Chrysler dealership in Georgia. So again, I've had a fun ride and an incredible ride on getting to the point. And again, my main passion at this point is to really share, communicate with those that were much like I was. Maybe you've gone through a situation where you've got some scar and wounds, or maybe you've gone through a divorce, or maybe you've gone through something, but you're a car guy, car gal, passionate, and you still have something inside of you that wants to go to the next level. I believe I've got the information to go to the next level. I've lived it. I've had the chance to learn it, live it, and now I want to teach it. I want to help people that want to get to the next level, be able to climb themselves to maybe go from, whether it's a salesperson to management, maybe it's somebody that wants to go from a manager to a general manager, maybe somebody that wants to go from GM to a partner, maybe even own their own store. The unfortunate part is if you're a general manager trying to be a partner, or if you're a general manager wanting to buy your own store, it's hard to go to your boss and ask them, how do I buy a store, when you're working for them? You're not going to get the information. The beauty of it is there's very few people in the marketplace that actually started from a salesperson, worked their way up to buying not 1, 2, but 3 stores, plus an independent dealership, acquired that information on real estate acquisition, mergers, selling and buying, getting manufacturer approval, all these facets and pieces that are involved. You don't know how to do it, you know, and even myself, I went to NADA Dealer Academy. It was a great education, but it taught me operations. No one ever taught me how to acquire a store, how to purchase a store, how to negotiate a store, due diligence, do the things that are required, get the funding, the equity, the cash, the investors. This is information that's not readily available, so I've just really had the passion to teach that to others.